This week, a Republican judge in Louisiana, Judge Michelle Odinet, was recorded laughing as she called a black man the N-word, and she didn't say N-word, she used the word with a hard R. And rather than apologize for saying the racial slur, she decided to go in a different direction and gave us a ridiculous excuse that you won't believe. Before we get to that excuse, let's get to the video in question here, and then I'll give you her excuse. Let's watch.
When I pull up in the whip, they be saying, "God damn."
Like, why are your lights on? They're like, pull up, pull up.
And mom's yelling.
Henry, haven't like a roach.
Oh, that's me.
So you can't, I mean, we're not gonna air the word, but that was the context in which she was saying the word. And later, after getting caught, she did not issue an apology, she issued an excuse. I was given a sedative at the time of the video. I have zero recollection of the video and the disturbing language used during it. Anyone who knows me and my husband knows this is contrary to the way we live our lives. We ask for your understanding, forgiveness, patience, and prayers. You know, forgiveness is an interesting word to use when you haven't apologized. I mean, right? I mean, okay, and I know what it's like to be on a sedative. I've had surgery before, a surgery that, you know, conservative hate watchers of this show love to bring up on a regular basis. This beautiful, you know, profile.
Bone structure.
Well, the bone structure is natural, but the nose structure is not natural. But anyway, I don't know. I remember being on a painkiller, and I don't remember ever feeling the urge to use racial slurs like the N-word.
Well, I got the gas for a dental procedure, and we'll never know if I would have just blurted out a stream of racial slurs because they were like cracking my teeth apart. So I couldn't speak, I probably would have. Great experience otherwise. No, that doesn't explain it. Also, I mean, as I'm sure you're gonna, it's just the Roseanne thing again. Like, that didn't, I don't think, work well for her. I don't know why it would work better for a judge who is gonna combine a played out, awful, sorry excuse with a complete lack of apology, and then a request for prayers for her.
Yeah, no, it's amazing, it really is. And listen, Roseanne is one thing, right? Roseanne is in the entertainment industry. She's not handing down decisions or rulings that have an impact on people's lives. This is a judge.
That'd make for a good show, though.
This is, I mean, there's plenty of content like that out there.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think, like we're just assuming that she's lying, that she wasn't on the sedative?
Yeah, I am speculating that her excuse is a lie.
I'm speculating as well.
Yeah.
What if she was on a sedative? Do you think a sedative or whatever can get you to say something you wouldn't have otherwise said if you were lucid?
Look, obviously I'm not a medical expert, but I would imagine that most substances are kind of like alcohol, right? So your inhibitions are lowered and you might act a little wacky or crazy, but usually when you're saying things, you tend to be a little more, if you ask me, honest. You get what I'm saying?
It's not totally fundamentally changing who you are.
Exactly, like a drug doesn't fundamentally change who you are. Like if anything, it lowers, you know, whatever wall you have up that prevents you from spouting out things that are not socially acceptable.
Yeah, this is maybe the more honest her. Also, do you believe that in her capacity as a judge, she would extend an incredible amount of leniency to people who happen to be on some sort of substance? I mean, after all, they can't control themselves.
That's a great point. That really,
I sort of doubt it.
I mean, you could use that reasoning for anything, right? Oh, I mean, I don't have any recollection of robbing the bank. It's just that I was on a painkiller, or I was on a sedative, I was drunk, whatever.
It's the pandemic.
That's not an excuse.
I've been drinking a ton since the beginning of this. You've been high for a year and a half solid. Do we not have to be responsible for literally anything we've done since early March 2020?
It's just, it's crazy how often this kind of stuff happens. You're crazy.
I know. Look, it just, what are the people who are supposed to come before her going to think? How could they possibly think that they can get a fair shake from someone who you just slip a little bit of Ambien in her and she's suddenly dropping N-bombs? Like there's clearly something there, some kind of bias or bigotry.
Yeah.
We already know that that's a part of the system. To see it identified so individually in a person, Yeah, they would be totally justified to think that there was no chance that they would get justice before her.
Of course, and to be sure, in Louisiana, this has been an ongoing issue, right? So she's been condemned by officials in the state as that's an obvious, like condemning this behavior is, I think, the obvious move. I want to skip ahead to talk a little bit about the state courts and how they've grappled with racism for decades. So there was a report led by former Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson, and he found several instances of racial bias in the New York State court system. So this isn't Louisiana, but state courts, tend to have these issues, and if they're having this problem in New York State, I would venture to say they might have similar problems in Louisiana. So for instance,
maybe.
In one form or another, multiple interviewees from all perspectives still complain about an under-resourced, overburdened New York State court system, the dehumanizing effect it has on litigants, and the disparate impact of all of this on people of color. The sad picture that emerges is in effect a second-class system of justice for people of color in New York State. And also, according to court officers of color, the use of racial slurs by white court officers is common and often goes unpunished. These court officers also told us that they felt they could not report incidents for bias for fear of being ostracized by their fellow officers and facing adverse career consequences from powerful and entrenched union leaders. So the Louisiana Black Caucus has called this, she's an elected judge, called her out. I'll give you one example. This is from the Louisiana Legislative Black Caucus. They released a statement saying this: in the event she doesn't resign, we request that the Louisiana Judiciary Commission immediately appoint an ad hoc judge to hear cases in her division, investigate this incident, and ultimately remove her. And I do think an investigation should be done to see if her racial bias has played any role in the decisions that she's made. We're supposed to have a justice system, not a racially biased system that has double standards based on your skin color, period.
100%.
Yeah. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.